And that brings us, of course, to the First Amendment. These are all free speech issues. And the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is 57 Muslim governments around the world, 56 nations, and the Palestinian Authority, is the largest voting bloc in the UN since the demise of the Soviet bloc. And they have for years been pursuing attempts to compel the West to criminalize criticism of Islam, and to get the United States to actually outlaw speaking about Islam in ways that they do not like. Now this might seem absurd, and in the early 2000s, the Bush administration resisted this and rejected it at the UN every year when they would try to bring these resolutions. The Obama administration signed on. Resolution 1618 of the United Nations Human Rights Council calls on member states to criminalize what they call incitement to religious hatred or defamation of religions. Now, I just quoted the Quran and quoted the commentary by a leading Muslim scholar who's internationally renowned and respected. Was that incitement to religious hatred? It's in their book. If there's religious hatred, they said it. That stuff about the non-Muslims have no right to rule and have to be in submission to the Muslims, I think that's their hate speech. I'm saying you should resist that in the name of freedom and equality of rights for all people before the law. But you see, incitement to religious hatred, that's what they would call that. They think I just did some of that by saying that there are Muslims who believe that and are acting upon it and are working on it in the United States right now, which is a rather obvious fact. And so, the Obama administration signed on. Now, a lot of times I talk about these things. I don't know if you're raising your hand to ask me a question, but I will have questions at the end. So give me a little while and I'll get to you. The Obama administration had to recognize that the United States has this pesky thing, the First Amendment, that guarantees the freedom of speech. And the Founding Fathers were extraordinarily wise to put that into the Bill of Rights because freedom of speech is the fundamental safeguard against tyranny. There is nothing else between us and a dictatorial government that can do whatever it wants. If we can speak out against it, though, then we can rally opposition. But if we can't speak out against it, then forget it. They can run roughshod. And so, the Obama administration had to recognize that we have this, and that they were essentially going on record. The United States government was going on record at the United Nations against the United States Constitution. And they said that we understand that there are countries that have these freedom of speech clauses, and so we ask them to work to find other strategies in order to safeguard the idea that there's no incitement to religious hatred. And Hillary Clinton was asked about this after she signed on to this resolution, and she said, yeah, I think that we should subject the people who incite to religious hatred to a good old-fashioned public shaming. And when I read that, I thought, what are you going to do, put me in the stocks? What is this, Plymouth? The thing is, I realize now what she meant. What she meant was the people in the mainstream media who carry out this agenda would assist and abet the demonization of anybody who speaks the truth about Islam and jihad. And that's what we see happening. And remember also, after the Benghazi massacre, which was a jihad massacre, the Obama administration immediately blamed a YouTube video of Muhammad's life that nobody had ever seen. And Muslims duly started rioting and killing in other countries about this Muhammad video. But it's now come out that nobody in Libya was upset about this Muhammad video. Nobody had heard of it, and they were rioting for some other reason. Why would the Obama administration immediately invoke this video? And everybody did. Hillary Clinton, Susan Rice, Jay Carney. They all said, oh, it's this video, it's this video, it's this video. Well, think about the implications of that, my friends. Think about that for a minute. What he was saying was, our free speech is at fault. If we would just shut up about Muhammad, then these things wouldn't happen. And so that's the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to keep talking about Muhammad until I'm dead. Which may be soon, since I keep talking about Muhammad. Fact is, the picture of the Prophet of Islam that you get from the Muslim texts is of a violent individual who had his enemies assassinated and who taught his followers to make war against people gratuitously because they had different beliefs, and to essentially enslave them and take their money and destroy their communities. He has the excellent example of conduct in the supreme guide that Muslims must emulate, also, of course, consummated a marriage with a 9-year-old girl when he was 54, and so we see child marriage rather common in places like Iran and Afghanistan. This man is no kind of example, and he is the cause of numerous human rights violations and untold human suffering. And if we're not able to talk about that, that suffering is going to continue. So, who is the only person who is in jail right now for the Benghazi Jihad massacre? The filmmaker who made that Muhammad video. He was, right after the Benghazi attacks, arrested on a parole violation. Now, I don't know this man. I have been accused of being involved in making this film. This is all part of the defamation that is regularly given to those who speak out about Islam and jihad. Actually, I don't know this guy, I never met him, and I had nothing to do with this video, and I actually haven't even seen it to this day. So, I don't know what's in it, I don't care, because I will, like Voltaire said, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. So anyway, apparently he's a shady character, and he has an arrest record, and he was out on parole or probation. And one of the conditions of the probation was that he not go on the internet. And so they got him on that because they figured you must have uploaded this video to YouTube, which means you went on the internet, back in jail. Now I ask you, do you think that there are any violators of parole or probation out on the streets today? Do you think that any of them are guilty of more serious crimes than going on the internet? Do you think that anybody in the US government is worried about rounding them up and clapping them in prison? No, of course not. That man, and I don't even know his real name, he went by several names, but whoever he is, he's a political prisoner in the United States right now. And he is a hostage to the Obama administration's war against the freedom of speech and abetting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the Muslim advocacy groups in the United States' war on free speech and attempt to silence us about the jihad threat. Not only that, but the father of one of the men who was killed in Benghazi says that Hillary Clinton said to him at a White House meeting of the families of the victims, "We're going to have that filmmaker arrested and jailed." And she did.